Hello and welcome to Staring at Charts here on Landy's Crypto Corner. Today is January 11th, 2024, and we are one trading day removed from the launch and first trading day of the spot Bitcoin ETFs. Now, we're first going to take a look at spot price action here on Coinbase, and then we will look at some of the ETFs that got converted. It's not really worth looking at the newer spot ETFs right this moment, but we will look at like GBTC and let's see, there was one other one that was a let me actually look here. That might be helpful. It was the ticker that somebody reminded me that I didn't have DeFi. Yeah, so we'll look at DeFi, which is Tidal or Hashdex. It's Tidal Commodities Trust. We will also look at GBTC even. Well, that's tough to say. And we're going to start out by looking at Bitcoin spot price here because it did do something significant that we have been talking about. We saw this monthly swing high at 48,240 get ran. It did turn into a wick. That's kind of expected. Now, the wick high did come in at just shy of $50,000, about $900 shy in this case, at 49,100. And Bitcoin closed and has been closing under this monthly here at 47,100 and above this monthly support area even at 45.5. Now, this is also in between the daily upper first and upper second standard deviation. So that is to say, despite the deviations down below and above, Bitcoin is still range bound on a close. So if Bitcoin can close above this monthly and upper second standard deviation here at 47,000 to 47,200, I would be looking for it to run right back to that monthly swing high around 48,240 to the current swing high at around $49,000. Now, we may even see a spike up into around $50,000, but until we see a close on at least a daily above this monthly swing high, I wouldn't be looking too much further than $50,000, such as into the mid to low $50,000 region, until we at least see a daily close above this monthly swing high so that we know that the market does desire to break that bear market high. Now, if Bitcoin does drop the upper first here and this monthly at 45.5, I would look for it to head somewhere down around this wick low of this current topside consolidation here. And this is coming in at around 44,300 to 400 to that basis band. Now that is coming in at around $44,000. If Bitcoin's price does start heading towards this, you can see it is above $44,000. It's at 44,100. But if Bitcoin does lose the upper first, I do expect this to be somewhere around $44,000, possibly even slightly under there. That would be the main target, at least locally in the lower term timeframes that I would be looking for. Below there, and I would start to target the weekly here again, and that's coming in at 43,200 to the lower first, and that is coming in around 42.5. If that is lost, I would target the next weekly here at around 41.8 to the lower second, and that is coming in at $41,000. If the lower second is lost on a close, I would still target the downside wick areas. And it would be the downside wicks because the lower second is below the close open lows here. So it would be the wick down here, somewhere around 40,600 to the actual wick low at 40,150. Now you could just take $40,000 depending on your exchange. I apologize. I'm having a little bit of a tough time. I just caught a cold, so bear with me. This is pretty easy price action on the lower term and even higher term timeframes at this point. If the lower second is lost on a close and the wick lows are taken out, then we're targeting this weekly down here at 39K to the monthly just below at 38,500. I know you guys have heard this a lot. Below there is that 38,500 monthly has not been retested. We're not getting a lot of retests, and we haven't been getting a lot of retests on the move up since the breakout of 31.8. But in this case, we did see some major rejections on the daily here, and even a push above on the daily and a rejection at the weekly. So that $38,500 to $39,000 weekly, pretty significant area. So I would expect that to get retested. If we did see closures below the lower second that dropped the range wick lows here. Now, of course, that would be a deviation failed breakout of this range, but we would be looking lower, obviously. If this 38.5 was dropped, then we start targeting the weeklies here at 37,000 to the next weekly at 36 200 to 300. And then below there is a monthly at $35,000. This is very significant. If you watched the live stream on Wednesday, you'll know that I pointed out there is a few momentum pivots in that area on the higher term time frames. Or I'm sorry, there's some band levels in the area in that area right now at the $35,000 region. So that would be a logical zone to look at. And then there is a weekly just below it at 34,715 or 750, I should say. Now, I wouldn't be looking for too much more. If there was some sort of a hellacious dump off, that is generally the area that I'd be looking at. And I'll show you why here when we go to the weekly. You can see that the weekly Bollinger Band basis is right there at the monthly at $35,000. Now, that would also mean that Bitcoin would have to drop the upper first standard deviation on the weekly, which is lining up, at this weekly, funny enough, at 41.8, and then drop the range lows, the consolidation range lows, and then break through all of these supports to get there. So, at worst, if there was some sort of larger capitulation event, this is where I would be looking. That's not my first take on this price action, by the way. As you can see, Bitcoin just went up and tagged the upper second standard deviation. This is something that we talked about in Wednesday's live stream, and I will follow up in tomorrow's live stream as well. So very important. As long as Bitcoin is closing above the upper first standard deviation, let's get a cleaner chart here without support and resistance. If Bitcoin is closing above this upper first standard deviation here at that 41.8 to 42K, the upper second is more likely to keep getting hit and possibly deviated above. That's where we're looking into, a strike of around $50,000, possibly a move into the mid to low $50,000 if we start seeing daily closures above the monthly area that we just talked about, which is the monthly swing high there at 48,200. So that would be the big area to watch out for. Daily closes that subsequently close 2 days, 3 days, 4 day, 5 day, and weekly candles are just going to be that much more powerful in terms of the momentum to the upside and volatility to the upside as well, especially when taking into account that, right now volatility is falling on the weekly. So when Bitcoin or any kind of asset or indice is basically getting a consolidation above its upper first standard deviation, or on the other side of this, if something is consolidating below the lower first, getting a cool down while being below there, what that really means is that the this sideways price action and closes that are maintaining that upper first are pulling the basis and lower standard deviations of the bands to the upside here. And that's what you want to see for good, strong moves. And in the longer term timeframes, this transitionary phase from bear market to bull market. So this is what you would prefer to see. And if we did see really major moves down below that upper first, we really want to see it move back to the basis, which is right in line with that monthly at $35,000. Below there, then we start targeting that lower first standard deviation. And this is coming in around $28,000 now, which is a major weekly level as well. This is right around these wick lows of the prior cycle. And there is some weekly swings in here as well. So, there's, from when price was trading in there. But, there's nothing really bearish about the launch of these ETFs, by the way. I actually was very pleased. For those of you that know what I do, it was a very busy day that was filled with a lot of figuring it out on the fly. There's people calling from all over to get things done. Let's put it that way. And figuring out how we could solve those problems is really what was the focus of today. But everything went very smoothly. And I think that the launch of the ETFs went very smoothly as well. Now, when looking at, we can take DeFi here. You can see that there was not a lot of volume. You're going to look at this volume bar and say like, wow, that looks like rejected volume. In some of the lower term timeframes, and I'll jump back to the spot chart and kind of look at this as well. But you see how long that the Tidal Commodities Future Trust, or the Hashdex Bitcoin ETF, has been live in terms of before becoming a spot ETF. In this case, very sparsely traded, and Grayscale was leading in that department. But you saw a nice move prior to, you saw some volume coming in on all the ETF news in late December. And then we saw a move above the upper second, a move back down that held the upper first on the daily. And now, a big rejection, but that was above the upper second and third. And then a close right between the upper second and first. This is not to be unexpected in any situation like this. Expansion just wasn't ready to the upside. And, if we do see reversals, it's going to have to drop this wick low at $54, drop the basis at 53, and then start tagging the lows here in between the lower first and second to start even looking for some sort of a longer term reversal and not just mean reversion. Now, in this case, the zone to be aware of here is the lower first coming in at 51.18 to the lower second at 49.38. So I would pay attention to that. We are still seeing Stoke pointed up. 57.38 is going to be the number to maintain that. Now, it is going to turn down on open tomorrow, but it's only an initial cross down. We still have confirmed expansion to the upside in this case. So I would, just keep an eye on that. And, you just keep an eye on the regular Bitcoin spot price chart, and it's going to give you a good idea of what these ETFs are doing as well. Then we have Grayscale, which, to be fair, this is a massive candle. Again, Grayscale's kind of been parabolic here, so this is not unexpected. But what I will say is what we have seen already is the volatility increase, right? So we saw a move back to the basis band, closures above the upper first and upper second, and then re-expansion of the bands. Volatility still remains high, and this candle still closed above the upper second standard deviation. So be aware of that. If it does drop that area at $40.30, I would target the upper first, and that is coming in at 38.41. If it does drop this upper first, then it will put in a high, start targeting that basis in and around these wicks. And that basis is coming in at 36.52. Below there, we start targeting the last big higher low here, and that's coming in around $34 at the lower first to the wick low there at 33.95. Below there, probably problems or consolidation. It really would remain to be seen. We would have to reference the spot Bitcoin chart to see where it's landing as well. So just keep that in mind when looking at some of these ETFs. It's not really going to be worth looking at a single candle chart like this on what is incorrectly labeled as Defiance Daily Short Digitizing the Economy ETF. This is actually the iShares Bitcoin Trust. So we can go over here and you can see that this is the iShares Bitcoin Trust. This is a TradingView issue. It was a temporary ticker, but that was already entered into the database for TradingView, is what I found out. I actually asked TradingView about it. So this needs to be updated or fixed. They have not fixed it yet, but now that iShares has claimed that particular ticker symbol, this has to be updated to show you that it is the iShares Bitcoin, Trust. It will be updated, I think, eventually, but for now it is kind of funny. Now, let's go ahead and kind of dig into a little bit about volume here before I let you go. We're almost at the 15-minute mark here. So I did want to point out, though, we have had a bit of a zone of interest when it came to volume, at least in this local range to pay attention to. So we pointed this out on one of the live streams, and it is this consolidation prior to the move up to $46,000, which was on this candle area here, $47,000, I should say. The $46,000 spike was over here. Where was it? I might be missing it. Was it this guy here? 47. We've got 45.5. It was this little spike right here at $46,000. All right, so we saw this rundown in price back here on the third into the fourth. We saw consolidation. Then we saw a move off of the lows here, and then a move up into test this low side structure, and then it regained it and consolidated for a couple of 15-minute candles, couple hours, and then it moved on to set new highs, test that monthly at $47,000, and so on and so forth. Now, this has acted as a zone of liquidity when Bitcoin has come back to it in the shorter term timeframes. But what I want you to note is on the big sell-off here from that first higher high before yesterday's higher high, we had that move up to around just shy of $48,000. It was $47,900. And the down candle caused a very large spike in volume. Now, when you're looking at some of the longer term timeframes, you're going to see that this area here on like a 4-hour chart from this current high side structure is the highest volume that we've seen in this range. But when looking at a 15-minute candle volume structure, you can see that this zone of liquidity between 45,410 and 44,400 or so has been a big area of demand. So that does mean that if Bitcoin gets here, you should pay attention to it. And if it is dropped, that's when you start looking at some of the areas of support to the downside that I was talking about earlier. So this big volume spike was a spike into this liquidity. This then was swept, and the low side of this initial breakout to consolidation was swept as well. So that does mean that if this high volume candle gets taken out and this low down here gets taken out at around that 44,400, 350 area, then I would be looking for, moves down to structurally this consolidation in and around the low 44 to 43,200 area. And that is a weekly. So pay attention to that if it does occur. Otherwise, I would look for this to consolidate and try back up for that swing high at 48,240, maybe even test that wick high up there at around $49,000. All right, I'm going to leave you with that. You have a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening, no matter where you are in the world. Please trade safe. And of course, as always, stay safe. Landy out.